right here, the trap work. And what I'm doing right now is the soft pedal has some lost motion, so I'm eliminating that. And the soft pedal basically brings the hammers about halfway to the strings, so that the hammer doesn't have a chance to develop much momentum, so it's a softer sound. So we want to take all the lost motion out of this pedal. Sustain pedal I've regulated so you don't have to whomp it down to the floor. You can just have more control of the pedal, so it lifts this dampers a little bit earlier. Probably about 240 tuning pins that have to be all tightened, because in the treble you have one note, but there's 3 strings per note that have to be tuned in unison with each other. And as you go down to the bass and the lower or the upper bass, you have 2 strings per note, and the lowest strings have 1 wound copper string per note. So that balances out. You have the biggest sound in the bass, and as you go up you have higher tension, shorter strings, so they require more strings to get to balance out the bass. So that's what we're dealing with. There's probably about 12 to 15 tons of pressure on this iron plate in the back structure here. And what happens over a period of years, if it slips way out of tune, it takes several tunings to bring the piano up to pitch and hold the pitch. What will happen is, as I'm tuning, it's going to go flat again. It's pulling flat, so that's the reason I have to tune it several times. And it's also the reason we recommend pianos be tuned at least once a year to maintain this and it's tension. A drop action, which means most of the action parts are below the level of the keyboard. And the reason they do this is to keep the size of the piano down. I use the middle octave F to F as my temperament octave. So I want to hear only one of those 3 strings when I'm setting the bearings, and then I tune outwards to the bass and to the treble from there. But my machine is great at showing you just how far off it might be. And that's another advantage of the machine over a tuning fork. It lets you know exactly how far it is off of pitch. The pitch is usually measured in cents. And the distance from one key to the next is 100 cents. So that's how fine it is. And this measures in fractions of a cent, so we're going to find out. The standard pitch should be 440 cycles per second at the A above middle C. It's about a half step flat, close to 100 cents flat. So when I'm playing this A, it should be sounding this pitch, but it's so we've got a ways to go here. In fact, from a rough tuning, I'm going to tune it just a little under pitch, because there's a risk of breaking strings if I'm not careful, because I'm really tightening them up. So I'm going to pull up an old file here and tune it a little under pitch for the first pass, and then we'll go from there. Some technicians say you have to get the piano in tune before you can tune it. You have to get it close to pitch before you can start doing the fine adjustments of a tuning. So it's going to be several passes of just getting it roughly in tune, and at the very end, hopefully in about 3 hours, we'll be doing the finer adjustments. One thing I'll say too is, like I say, normally every year at least the piano should be tuned. You may start noticing things sooner than that. In fact, you might want to consider a tuning in 6 months. If it starts sounding bad, that's kind of normal, because it's missed about 30 tunings from what I understand. So, but after it stabilizes, I think once a year should do it. Since it's been a long time, I lower it drastically first. There's a bearing point right here that it can hang up on, and that can. If I don't do this, it's more likely that I'll break a string. So I'm going to really lower it. And we're just getting it in the ballpark now. So you can hear, this should be the same pitch an octave lower, and it's not. So that shows it, gives you an idea. Actually under where it should be. Haven't tuned to C, so it's like almost the same pitch.
Yeah.
So it shows it's really, really flat. This should be enough. So I know of a few guys who have, had a lot of hearing loss from doing this a lot.
Really?
Mm-hmm. When you'll understand later, especially when I'm working the treble, I'm really having to pound these keys over and over and over again. So it's sustained high levels of sound for a long period of time that can do it. And I know some guys that tune 4 pianos a day, so they're going 8 hours, 10 hours a day, solid sound, and I can see that over a period of years happening. Here is I've basically roughed in the pitches of the middle strings. So now I'm going to go through and pull in the outer strings to match the middle one, and you can hear how far off that is. So long ways to go. Well, a new piano at the factory undergoes lots of tunings because it just keeps settling down. In fact, some people say that a new piano doesn't stabilize for a year or two, so it takes a lot of tunings to get it to stabilize at the pitch.